So what is up, guys? So it is Savage back, and today I am here with NFL Week Marquise Colston predictions. Don't get that. I know I didn't do it last week, but this is Week 12 predictions. And Marquise Colston is the perfect number 12 for the Saints, as he is our leader in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns. He was always Drew Brees' favorite target. And here's the thing. He was never even a Pro Bowler. Brees put up those numbers, and that was his number one guy. Man, what a guy. But anyways, Week 12 predictions. So I want to go back to Week 11. And finally, I had a good week. I was 10 for 13, which is 77%, which it could be improved upon, but I picked a couple of... I did play devil's advocate to a couple of teams. I did be a little bold, but, you know, it's about time I was accurate, because I was getting tired of going 9 for 27. I'm back up. And now we are here with Week 12 predictions. I'm hoping for my first ever perfect week. So without further ado, let's get this video started. And now we will be starting out with our Thursday night football matchup between the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts. The Houston Texans last week came off a 41-7 loss against the Baltimore Ravens, and the Indianapolis Colts came off a 33-13 victory over the Jacksonville Jaguars. So let's get this started with the Indianapolis Colts. It was must-win territory for you guys. If you still wanted a shot at the playoffs, you needed to beat the Jaguars and the return of Nick Foles. And you did that. Kind of unconvincingly, I mean, in terms of quarterback skill, like Jacoby Brissett. He only threw for 148 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Not that great, but it was all in the rushing game. Over 200 scrimmage yards. You had 14 carries, 109 yards, and a touchdown from Marlon Mack, but he did go down with an injury and was forced to miss the rest of the game, and he will be forced to miss an extended period of time. But Jonathan Williams came in, had 13 carries and 116 yards. Very good receiving wise. You know, your receiving game has been nowhere near as good, mainly since Luck retired, but also because T.Y. Hilton is injured. And there is talks that he will be playing again this week, which is very good. And then you have the Texans, who were absolutely humiliated last week. Deshaun Watson, 169 yards, no touchdowns and a pick. Carlos Hyde ran for 65 yards and a touchdown. Hopkins, 7 receptions, 80 yards. And that's about it. And the main thing about this team is that you guys are horrible defensively. J.J. Watt, injured for the rest of the season. Jadeveon Clowney, you traded him to the Seahawks. They laughed their way as they only gave up like a third-rounder for him. That was a steal. And then your secondary, I mean, now that the Honey Badger's gone, your secondary is just completely shot. But honestly, this is an important game for both teams. Both these teams are 6-4. And the Colts, they did win last time by 7. So if the Texans want a chance at the playoffs, they're going to have to win this game. Because if they do, because in terms of tiebreakers, first it goes by head-to-head, best win-loss tie percentage between each team, and then it goes to best win-loss tie percentage in games played within the division. So this is a division matchup, so if whichever team wins will most likely make the playoffs, will most likely win the division. So if I got to pick a winner for this one, I'm going to say that it will be the Houston Texans. They are going to pull off the victory. And the Colts, they are favored by 3.5, and Texans are favored by 3.5, and they will cover that. Anyways, moving on to the next. And now you have our very next matchup between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons. So the Buccaneers last week came off a 34-17 loss against the New Orleans Saints, and the Falcons came off a 29-3 victory over the Carolina Panthers. So let's get this started out with the Buccaneers. Well, Jameis Winston decided that it was time to turn the ball over all the time, as he threw for 313 yards, which was pretty good, 2 touchdowns, but 4 picks. He can't be doing that. You guys, in terms of receiving, no one was really out there. You know, y'all were pretty equal in terms of receiving, as everyone averaged maybe about, your top 3 receivers averaged about 71 yards, so very, very balanced. Mike Evans, once again, against the Saints defense, was incredibly limited, did not get that much going. And, of course, what killed you was Jameis throwing picks. And then you have the Atlanta Falcons, who have recently been surging, even though, you know, they have one of the worst defenses in the league. They are somehow coming back, as over the last 2 games, they have given up 12 points, on defense, they're giving up on average 6 points a game, averaging probably about 300 yards given up per game, but you're keeping him out of the end zone, which is very good. Matt Ryan threw 311 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. The rushing game, nothing. Calvin Ridley, 8 receptions, 143 yards, and a touchdown. Julio got six receptions and 91 yards. I mean, the thing about these teams is that both their defenses are garbage. Like, two of them, they both have amazing offenses, as Buccaneers ranked 6th in yards per game and Falcons ranked 10th. Both their top 10 offenses, in terms of defense, they're on the bottom end of the spectrum, as they are 21st and 23rd in yards per game given up on defense. So, gotta pick a winner for this one, and once again, I'm going to be going by the spread. Atlanta's supposed to be favored by 4.5, and I'm going to trust the spread, and I'm going to say Falcons win this game. And now you have our very next matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos last week got out to a 20-0 lead, and they proceeded to blow it as they lost 27-23 against the Vikings. And then the Bills came into Miami and won 37-20. So basically, the thing about both these teams is that where they thrive is in rushing and the defense. The passing game is not good. Not at all. But let's get to last week. So starting off, the Broncos. Wow. You and Baylor were on another level of choking. It's just insane how both you guys had 20-plus point leads, and yet you still both blew the games. I gotta get going. So, Brandon Allen, 240 yards, 1 touchdown and a pick. You know, you guys were looking amazing, but then all of a sudden, Kirk Cousins finally realized, wait, you're under 500. This is where I thrive. And he did. Phillip Lindsay ran for 67 yards, and Royce Freeman had 31. Cortland Sutton, once again, the workhorse. He ran for 10 yards, had 5 receptions for 113 yards, and even got 1 pass that he got out for 38 yards. Then you have the Buffalo Bills. Don't kid yourselves. You guys think this was a dominant victory? Oh, yay! We had offense! Wake up. You faced the Dolphins. Josh Allen, 256 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Okay. Devin Singletary, 75 rushing yards. Josh Allen, 56 rushing yards and a touchdown. But John Brown has been quietly one of the better receivers this year. 9 receptions, 137 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's about it. So in terms of defense, you guys are ranked 3rd and 4th in yards given up per game. Both of you can't really stop the rush, but you can stop the pass. So who has the better passing game? It's the Bills, honestly. And still, even if Flacco was playing, I'm still going to say Bills will win this game. And now you have our very next match between the New York Giants and the Chicago Bears. Starting off, the Giants, they were on their bye last week, and they came off a 34-27 loss last time against the Jets. And then the Chicago Bears, who came off a 17-7 loss against the LA Rams. So let's get this start out with the Giants. So, Daniel Jones, 308 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. But you're facing the Jets, who, even though they were hyped up to have a very good defense, they completely faltered. He also ran for 20 yards. Saquon only ran for 1 yard that game. He made up for it. Not really, though. He had 30 receiving yards. Darius Slayton, 121 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Golden Tate, 4 receptions, 95 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Honestly, a good defensive game, but... good offensive game. But defensively, you guys were completely shot by the Jets. And then you have the Chicago Bears. Man, I predicted you guys would win the NFC North. And at this point, you guys aren't going to make the playoffs. Starting out, Mitch Trubisky threw 190 yards, a touchdown and a pick. The rushing game, Dave Montgomery and Tariq Cohen only combined for just about 70 rushing yards. The receiving game, you can't do much when you have Trubisky under center. What's worse is that Trubisky, he is out and is now replaced with Chase Daniel. And honestly, this season, Chase Daniel has ran the offense way better than Trubisky. So that is honestly a major point of concern. In terms of the statistics for both these teams, Bears obviously have the better defense. Giants, somehow, they do have the better offense in terms of passing and rushing. So if I got to pick a winner of this one, I'm going to say offense will win this game, as the Giants will pull off a victory. And currently, the spread is 6.5 for the Bears. The Giants will completely whip that. And I forgot to mention the last spread with the Buffalo Bills, how they were favored by 4. Bills will cover the spread. And so far, every team will be covering the spread except for the Giants at this point. Giants win. And now you're moving on to our very next game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cincinnati Bengals. The Steelers came off a 21-7 loss against the Cleveland Browns, and the Bengals came off a 70-10 loss against the Raiders. So, Steelers. I can't even describe exactly what the hell last week was, because what was really talked about was the end of the game with what happened. But I will explain that in my next part when I talk about the Browns, because at this point it more kind of screws over the Browns. But basically, you guys did lose your center in Marquise Pouncey for 3 games, but the suspension did actually get reduced to 2 games. Starting off, Mason Rudolph, 221 yards, a touchdown and 4 picks. Turning into Nathan Peterman all of a sudden. The offense couldn't get really anything going. James Conner ran for 10 yards, but he did get injured. Jalen Samuels could barely do anything. The receivers couldn't do much. Juju got injured. And honestly, you guys, I'm not even sure if you're going to make it into January football. My guess is you're probably not going to make it. Which really does suck. Because you guys looked interesting this year. Mainly, anyways, enough about that. So then you have the Bengals. Ryan Finley was terrible. 13 for 31, 115 yards, no touchdowns and a pick. Joe Mixon ran for 86 yards and a touchdown. He also had 17 receiving yards and a touchdown. Auden Tate, 4 receptions, 56 yards. Other than that, your offense was just completely dried. It was completely dried out and horrible. I don't know why you guys are deciding to bench Andy Dalton, because Ryan Finley is a terrible quarterback. Dalton, despite him not being really the greatest, he's better than Finley. Which is all I can say for this matchup. So if I gotta pick a winner for this one, Steelers are favored by 6.5 to win, and I do believe that because the Bengals are trash disguised as a football team. They don't have the offense, and they don't have the defense either. The Steelers, not really the offense, but they got the defense. So Steelers will walk away with a victory. And now you have our very next match between the Miami Dolphins and the Cleveland Browns. The Dolphins came off a 37-20 loss against the Buffalo Bills, and the Cleveland Browns came off a 21-7 victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Anyway, starting off with the Dolphins. You guys realize that you guys won 2 games in a row, but you realized you want that number 1 pick, which probably won't be Tua anymore because Tua Tagovailoa, however the hell you say his name, is out with a hip injury, has to get surgery, and it's actually really serious. Alabama, I don't know, you were leading by 28, and you decided to keep him in, maybe just because you wanted to cover the spread, but why would you do that, Alabama? So anyways, Fitzpatrick threw 323 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. The rushing game barely could even crack 20 yards. The receiving game, Devontae Parker feasted on that Buffalo defense for 135 yards. But other than that, you guys were really nothing. The Bills' offense, you fell to them. And then the Browns. So, I know what I said about last part, but last week in the Browns game, there were 3 suspensions, and they all came at the end because at one point, near the end, Myles Garrett sacks Mason Rudolph. But then, for some reason, he was super pissed at him, and he ripped off his helmet. So, Mason's not happy about that. Mason tries to go back at him, but Myles Garrett takes his helmet, swings it, and clunks him on the head. First off, what the hell is that? Like, honestly, are you trying to kill him? Like, I know at this point, YouTube saying kill isn't exactly a good thing, but seriously, if Myles Garrett hit him with a different... Mason Rudolph's lucky because if Myles Garrett hits him with a different part of the helmet, Mason Rudolph could have died. And also, Mason Rudolph was coming off a serious concussion. So, honestly, what was the point in that? So, currently, Myles Garrett has been suspended indefinitely. He's going to miss the rest of the season. And if they somehow make the playoffs, he's missing that too. And also their defensive tackle and Larry Ogunjobi. During the fight, he did shove Mason Rudolph to the ground helmetless. So he did get a 1-game suspension. Which, oh my god. Last week's game was just crazy. But anyways, back to the Browns. You played alright. Baker Mayfield, 193 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Nick Chubb ran for 92 yards. In terms of receiving, your big guys were Odell Beckham Jr. with 60 receiving yards, Kareem Hunt with 46 receiving yards, and Jarvis Landry with 43 receiving yards. Gotta pick a winner for this one. I know that one was short about the Browns, but honestly, there's not much I can say about them. because there were more talking points in what happened from the suspensions that came out of last week. Cleveland favored by 10.5. Oh yeah, they're going to cover against the Dolphins. Cleveland will win this game. And now we have our very next match between the Carolina Panthers and the New Orleans Saints. Starting off the Panthers game, they came off a 29-3 loss against the Falcons. And then the Saints came off a 34-17 victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So let's get this started out with the Carolina Panthers. Well, people are saying you're all McCaffrey. You're saying, oh, there's a chance. No, you're all McCaffrey. Kyle Allen, 325 yards, no touchdowns, and 4 picks. Christian McCaffrey ran for 70 yards and also had 121 receiving yards. DJ Moore, he followed him up with a nice 8 receptions, 95 yards game. But other than that, you guys were silenced by the Atlanta Falcons. They silenced the Saints, and they'll also silence the Falcons. 2 offensive juggernauts. Well, the Saints were the offensive juggernaut, and the other is just Christian McCaffrey, who is like the ultimate offensive and fantasy juggernaut. And then you have the New Orleans Saints. You know, after losing the Falcons, we were in must-win territory against the Buccaneers, and we pulled that off. Drew Brees completed 80% of his passes for 228 yards and 3 touchdowns with no picks. Alvin Kamara ran for 75 yards. Latavius Murray ran for 27 yards. Michael Thomas, once again, getting all those receptions and receiving yards, having 8 receptions, 114 yards, and a touchdown. Other than that, very good game played. So if I want to pick a winner for this one, well, you already know who I'm picking. I'm picking the Saints. Because at this point, if we win this game, we will be going up with a 4-game lead. Now, here's the thing. Going into next week, if we win this game, we'll be up by 4 games in the division with 5 games left in the season. That's all we need to win. Like, basically, we win this game, we're in the playoffs, but we also got to fight for the number 1 spot. So honestly, at this point, Saints win easily. Got to cover a 9.5 point spread. We'll do that. Saints win. Moving on. And now you have our very next match between the Oakland Raiders and the New York Jets. The Raiders came off a 17-10 victory over the Cincinnati Bengals, and the New York Jets came off a 34-17 victory over the Washington Redskins. So looking at it, the Raiders, good game last week. Derek Carr, 292 yards, 1 touchdown, and a pick. Josh Jacobs, of course, ran for 112 yards and no touchdowns. Okay. Tyrell Williams, 82 receiving yards. Darren Waller, 78 receiving yards. Hunter Renfrow, 66 receiving yards. And that's about it. So, honestly, Raiders, I'm surprised that you guys are actually in the playoff hunt. But I'm going to get to that later as I will talk about the New York Jets. So, you guys came off a victory over the Redskins. Sam Darnold threw 293 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a pick. Le'Veon Bell ran for 59 yards and a touchdown. Other than that, your receiving game was led by Ryan Griffin with 109 receiving yards and a touchdown, and Jamison Crowder with 76 receiving yards and a touchdown. So honestly, a good game. Both these teams played well, but they weren't exactly facing the best opposition. And at this point, it's must-win territory for the Raiders, as they are 6-4, and they're actually currently 7th in the AFC playoff standings, as they are behind the Texans, who are the second wildcard team, who are also 6-4, but the Texans do have the tiebreaker. So, gotta pick a winner for this one. It's gonna be the Raiders, and they are pushing for a playoff spot. So yeah, Raiders win this game. And now you have our very next match between the Seattle Seahawks and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Seahawks were on their bye last week, and they came off a 27-24 victory over the 49ers on Sunday Night Football. And then last week, the Eagles came off a 17-10 loss against the New England Patriots. So start off with the Seahawks, against the 49ers, you were in a must-win game just so you could have a chance for the division, and you pulled that off. Very, very good game played. Oh man. Russell Wilson threw for 232 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Chris Carson ran for 89 yards and a touchdown. DK Metcalf, 6 receptions, 70 yards, no touchdowns. But other than that, you kept the 49ers in check. You held their offense to 24 points. You held them to just under 300 yards. So, very good performance in a must-win game. And then the Eagles, man, you nearly beat the Patriots. But Carson Wentz, 214 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. Miles Sanders, the rushing game is completely crap. Your secondary was your biggest liability this whole season, but you kept Tom Brady and the Patriots. Well, you kept the passing game to 230 yards, so very good game played in terms of secondary. But offense was just stale. Zach Ertz had 9 receptions, 94 yards. Nelson Aguilar dropped a possible game-tying touchdown with the waning seconds left in the game. So, before I pick my winner for this game, all I gotta say is that both these teams are in must-win territory. The Seahawks, they are 8-2 and are currently 5th in the wild card, 5th in the NFC. And then the Eagles, who are 8th in the NFC. So there's no way they're going to catch the wild card teams because they're the Seahawks and the Vikings, who are 8-2 and 8-3. Eagles are 5-5. So the only chance that the Eagles will have to make the playoffs is if they take out the Cowboys for the division. And if the Seahawks, if they want to have a chance to host a game and even have a bye, they're going to have to win. And so, gotta pick a winner for this one. It's going to be Seattle. Even though Philly's favored by 1, Seattle will pull off the victory. And now you have our final 1 o'clock matchup of Week 12 between the Detroit Lions and the Washington Redskins. The Lions came off a 35-27 loss against the Cowboys, and the Redskins came off a 34-17 loss against the New York Jets. So let's get this started out with the Lions. How the hell was it this close? I mean, you guys were torched on defense as Prescott threw for 444 yards. But other than that, Jeff Driscoll threw for 209 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no picks. Bo Scarborough ran for 55 yards. Jeff Driscoll ran for 51 yards. Other than that, your receivers didn't do too much, as Danny Amendola was your leading receiver with 47 yards. Marvin Jones had 43 receiving yards. Kenny Golladay was really down as he only had 1 reception for 34 yards. So honestly, your defense was just completely smoked, but for some reason, this was closer than I think it really should have been. And then the Redskins, one of the worst teams in the NFL. Let's see. Dwayne Haskins threw 214 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Adrian Peterson, I know I recently said he's been surging. Well, you face the Jets, the best pass rushing defense. He was limited to 25 yards. Terry McLaurin had 3 receptions for 69 yards. Kelvin Harmon, 5 receptions for 53 yards. So other than that, there's nothing really I can say about this one. But gotta pick a winner for this one. Still, even though the Lions are without Stafford, they're still gonna pull off a victory because, my God, the Redskins are terrible. And now you have our very first 4 o'clock matchup between the Tennessee Titans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. My God, when these two teams play against each other, it is absolutely terrible. But anyway, starting off, Titans, they were on their bye week last week, and they actually pulled off a upset over the Chiefs as they won 35-32. And then the Jaguars came off a 33-13 loss last week against the Indianapolis Colts. Starting off with the Titans, wow, you did that. Ryan Tannehill, 181 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He did an okay job, but it was really Derrick Henry. 23 carries, 188 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Other than that, your receivers really didn't do jack squat because it was really all Derrick Henry. And somehow you caused the Chiefs to turn it over 1 too many times. And you ended up with a blocked field goal to win the game. And then the Jaguars, wow. Nick Foles, he was back, but he threw 296 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Leonard Fournette was completely silenced by the front 7 of the Colts. DJ Chark, once he got Foles back, I knew he would be a force to be reckoned with, as he had 8 receptions, 104 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Other than that, your offense was stale. The Colts, I know you guys had the name Saxonville last year. Well, goddamn, Saxonville has yet to perform, as you are 29th in rushing yards per game given up, as you allowed over 200 rushing yards to the Colts. So, gotta pick a winner for this one. I don't trust the consistency of the Titans. Jaguars will win. And now you have, surprisingly, our final 4 o'clock matchup because, well, it was very limited this week, but it is between the Dallas Cowboys and the New England Patriots. The good thing about this team is both these teams are guaranteed not to win this week. So good. Anyways, starting off, the Patriots came off a 17-10 victory over the Eagles last week, and then the Cowboys came off a 35-27 victory over the Detroit Lions. So let's get this started with the Cowboys. So why was last week even close? Like, I don't get why it was that close, because Dak Prescott threw 444 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Ezekiel Elliott ran for 45 yards and had 28 receiving yards. But you still only beat the Lions by 8. And they were Staffordless. Michael Gallup and Randall Cobb combined for nearly 300 receiving yards. So offensively, very good game. Defensively, a couple of questions, but it's okay. And then you have the Patriots, who showed that defense is the true highlight of their team. Tom Brady threw for 216 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Julian Edelman had one pass that he got for 15 yards and a touchdown. Sony Michel and James White ran for only about 53 rushing yards combined. The receiving game, of course, is very limited because this team, they're all about their defense, because both these teams are, Patriots are ranked first in defense, and then the Cowboys are ranked 7th in defense. In terms of offense, the Cowboys dominate first, and the Patriots are only 16th. So, if I have to pick a winner for this one, do I choose offense or do I choose defense? Well, mainly I'm going to pick the Patriots because those who walk into Gillette Stadium, most of them do not come out alive. So, Patriots will win this game. And now you have our Sunday Night Football matchup, which was originally supposed to be a 1 o'clock matchup. The actual primetime Sunday Night Football match was supposed to be between the Seahawks and the Eagles, but the NFL decided they would flex over the 49ers and the Packers to Sunday Night Football. So, yep, that's the matchup. Packers were on their bye last week, but they came off a 24-16 victory over the Panthers last time. And then the 49ers came off a 36-26 victory over the Cardinals. So starting off, both these teams must-win territory. The winner will basically have the tiebreaker for the first-round bye, because both these teams are going to... One of these teams is going to get it, because it's not going to be the Cowboys. The Saints, we got to fight harder just to get that. But anyways, Packers. So Aaron Rodgers threw 233 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Aaron Jones did his thing, ran for 93 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's just been getting all the touchdowns because, after their matchup against the Eagles, where they threw the ball on the 1-yard line 7 times and didn't score once, they realized Aaron Jones is going to have to get all the touchdowns. That's why Rodgers' touchdown number has been pretty low this year. Devontae Adams, 7 receptions, 118 yards. Other than that, you guys stopped McCaffrey, you stopped the Panthers as you ended up winning that game. And then the 49ers, for a while, it was way too close as the Cardinals had you down for the count. But, of course, their defense was crap. So Jimmy Garoppolo threw for 424 yards, 4 touchdowns and 2 picks. Tevin Coleman, Raheem Mostert, they ran for 27 yards. Deebo Samuel, 8 receptions, 134 yards. Kyle Juszczyk, who is the fullback, had 7 receptions for 63 yards. So, basically, who's going to win this game? I'm going to say the Packers are going to win this game, even though the 49ers are favored. And also, it's a little bit biased because here's the thing. Packers, I'm going to say Saints are winning next week, and the Packers will win next week. We may not have the tiebreaker, but we want to be closer to we want to have a closer record to the 49ers before when we go in to play the 49ers, because we are going to be playing them in Week 14. And that is going to be a crucial matchup, which unfortunately is a 1 o'clock match. I really want it to be the Sunday Night Football matchup, but currently that is going to go to the Seahawks and Rams. And I doubt they're going to switch that out, because Seahawks and Rams is a pretty good matchup, but I think Saints and 49ers should at least be flexed to a 4 o'clock game. So yeah. Anyways, got to pick in the winner. Going to say the Packers. And now you have our final matchup of Marquise Colston Week 12 once again, between the LA Rams and the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens came off a 41-7 victory over the Texans, and then the Rams came off a 17-7 victory over the Chicago Bears. So, starting off with the Ravens, you guys have been clicking recently. You guys, oh my God, Lamar Jackson has officially turned into the GOAT. No defense has been able to crack him. Last week he had 222 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no picks. Also, what was good was your defense, as you stuffed Watson to only 169 yards. The rushing game, Gus Edwards had 112 rushing yards for a touchdown. Lamar Jackson, 79 rushing yards. Mark Ingram, 48 rushing yards, but he did follow that up with 37 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Mark Andrews had 4 receptions, 75 yards, and a touchdown. So overall, the offense has just been clicking. One of the best offenses currently in the game. And then the Rams have must-win territory. A lot of these teams are in must-win territory. But the Rams, Jared Goff had 173 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. He is incredibly overrated and being paid like a superstar, and he doesn't deserve that money. Todd Gurley ran for 97 yards and a touchdown. Malcolm Brown ran for 15 yards and a touchdown. The receiving game was very limited because Jared Goff, once again, is absolutely terrible. I think because, well, now that they realize, oh crap, Goff is terrible, and I don't care that Gurley has knee arthritis, they have been going a little bit back to a rush-heavy offense. And it's nowhere as good as it was before Gurley found out he had arthritis in his knee, but still, they're going back to the rush. So at this point, both these teams are in must-win territory because the Ravens want to do everything to have that number one seed, having home field throughout the entire playoffs. And the Rams, well, currently they are 7th in the NFC, and honestly, their chances aren't that good because the 49ers and Seahawks and Vikings are just completely the best teams. Like, the top 5 teams in the NFC are the 49ers, Packers, Saints, Seahawks, and Vikings. Now, 2 of those teams are wildcard teams. The Cowboys are the only division team that I don't include in this. The Rams, they're in must-win territory. Because if they lose this game, we can pretty much kiss their January hopes goodbye. But gotta pick a winner. No one has been able to figure out Lamar Jackson. I mean, a couple of teams have, but no. Ravens will win this game. And that is going to wrap up my video for today. Thank you guys all for watching. And if you did notice, I did do this whole video hatless. I may have lost my Saints hat, so I decided I would rock the hair. But honestly, it doesn't look too bad. Anyways, make sure to like this video, subscribe my channel, comment down below what other kind of videos you want to see. And this weekend, I will be filming a new Suitor Stories. Be on the lookout for that because I know I've been filming a lot of NFL videos. I'm getting a little bit burned out from this because I'm doing this weekly. But honestly, just be ready for the new Suitor Stories. Make sure to follow me on Instagram and Snapchat at SudaSavage. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Who Dat Nation is buzzing and out.